Welcome, everyone. We're really happy to see you here. Some of you probably have been here last week, and some of you for the first time. I'll just introduce myself and then move to Andrew. I'm Irit Merchav from Beta Mechanchim. It's the Educational Innovation Unit of Jerusalem Municipality. I will also say that I'm an English teacher. I currently don't teach, but I am an English teacher. And I'm very happy for this cooperation with Andrew Halevi from the Tichon L'Omanuyot. So Andrew, you can introduce yourself and let's begin.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be here for part two. Don't worry if you weren't here for part one. We're going to start with a very short recap. And we're going to go through a lot today. I only have about 12 slides that I want to share. And so there's going to be real opportunities for you to ask questions. Also, just to make comments. What I am going to ask is that if you do have questions and you do have comments, please just wait until the end of the slide. For us to get through, and that way we'll have some really good, I think, and meaningful discussion. The goal for this evening is for us to really talk about what is involved in good distance education. It needs to be more than just Zoom. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and that, no, that's not it. Okay, great. Hopefully you can see this. Again, that's just my name and Irit's name and the title of the presentation. Okay, so I see some names that were here from last week, but just in case, I just want to recap what we did and what we talked about. So. One of the things that we learned from the many participants who were there last week is there really isn't a consistent approach among teachers towards online education. Some teachers are using Zoom, some teachers are not even allowed to use Zoom. Some teachers use just videos, static videos. They make them and send them to their students. Some teachers are using programs like Padlet or Quizlet or Kahoot for like little mini activities. For their students, and a lot of teachers, most teachers, even when things are going well, are still kind of confused about what to do, and they haven't kind of fully hit their stride, at least not in the same way that they feel they've hit their stride in the classroom, which is completely natural. And so part of what we want to do is kind of acknowledge that that is the experience of most teachers. So if you're feeling you haven't hit your stride, maybe some classes go well and some classes don't go well, but you haven't really hit your stride, this is going to be a great webinar for you. And down at the bottom on this first slide, teachers are really not sure. Some of the big, really crucial issues are that teachers are not sure the best way to communicate with students outside of the actual Zoom class. And another big frustration for teachers is they don't have a workflow. They're accepting some work through email and some work through WhatsApp. Some are not accepting work at all because they don't even know how. So this is the end of the first slide, and I did want to make sure that people could have questions or make comments at the end of each slide. So I wanted to just kind of open it up for a minute, and if anybody wants to reflect upon these issues or just ask a question. Just as a reminder, you're probably muted. So if you do want to ask a question, you probably need to unmute yourself in order to do that. This is what we call wait time. Okay. Great. So that's the wrap up from number one, the last week's webinar. So then let's go right ahead and go to the themes for tonight's webinar. The most important theme that I want to get across is that there are no miracle solutions, and teachers love the idea of a miracle solution. If I just had this one book or just had access to this one website. But I think we all know, both in our heads and in our hearts, that there's really no such thing as a miracle solution. that transitioning to such a major transition from teaching in a physical classroom to teaching students, you know, from a distance involves a lot of changes, and a lot of those changes involve planning and instructing and interacting with students, communicating outside of the classroom, how to assess the students. These are all really big issues. Excuse the, there is a typo, I believe, on this slide, so excuse that, please. So does anybody have any questions about the themes for tonight's webinar before we start getting into the meat and potatoes of it?
Andrew, maybe now it would be a good time just to show the results of the poll.
Great.
Okay.
Perfect.
And in the meantime, if you want to speak. So now I'm sharing the results with you. It's really easy to do on Zoom. You can create polls really easily. So first of all, again, we wanted to see who is here. So we have all kinds of grades and all kinds of grade levels. We asked, what are your kids doing right now? Luckily, most of you, or you don't have kids or they're grown up. I am from the ones who look over their shoulder, and right now there was someone there. Some of you have already met students physically at school, maybe in elementary school or Yud-Aleph Yud-Bet. And we asked, and this is the most important question, what do you want to gain from this meetup? So we see that most of you are interested in how to organize the lessons and materials better to make your life easier, the life of students, and maybe the learning more better or meaningful. But you're also interested in feedback, in digital platforms, and how to communicate with your students. So now that we know, we can really emphasize some of these topics. We have all of them in tonight's webinar.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Okay, I am having a huge problem with the amount of work. One thing that really attracted to me to what you wrote in the, I guess, in the advertisement to come into the webinar was the amount of work that I have that I cannot. It's so difficult for me. I can't keep up with it. I'm doing lessons, and kids are sending me back work every day. I don't even have full students because I work with, full classes because I work with the advanced English students. But I have about 80 students, let's say, from like 7 different classes. I cannot keep up with checking all the work. I don't know what to do. It's taking me, because everything is so new to me. I'm not very technologically, advanced on things. I quickly had to get thrown into learning a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm still learning it, and I'm spending hours trying to figure out using different things, trying to plan the lessons, trying to see. I mean, it's getting a little bit better, but my major thing right now still is how do I mark everything down and get everything organized and send it back? It's taking me days. I'm behind. And so that's what I really wanted you to help me with that today.
Great. So first of all, thank you for sharing that. That's great. I'm sure it doesn't feel great, but can I just ask a question before I make a comment about that? Is how are you getting work and how are you grading it? Do you use
I'm getting it mostly through WhatsApp.
Okay.
And I am getting, basically the kids are taking pictures of what they're doing. I'm sending things back. So then I might put on a little, thing, who sent me what.
Actually, stop there. Yeah. You just needed to say that I'm getting it through WhatsApp, and I understand what a bunch of the issues are. So it seems to me like
I also, excuse me 1 minute, I'm also getting it through email, because some of this stuff are very long reports. And I'd rather have them on email so then I could look at them much better. It's harder to see what's going on when they take pictures on WhatsApp. But
like everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna cover this a little bit. I'm gonna give you kind of 2 bad news things before hopefully I'll make you feel a little bit better.
Okay.
First of all, what I would say to you and to anybody else in the situation is you need to develop a workflow that works for you and not for the students. And I don't mean it to say that you need to pick a workflow that doesn't work for the students. What I mean is you need to pick a workflow that primarily works for you, and the students need to adapt to that workflow. And that involves practicing a little bit of tough love. Now, I happen to be very good at practicing tough love. You can ask my children. But many teachers are not very good at it. They feel like, oh, a student has made this effort and I should be able to take it in whatever platform they want. They want to do it. But the truth is one system for students is almost always just as easy as another. It's just what they're the most used to. So what you need to do is you need to pick a platform that is the absolute easiest for you, and then essentially force the students to adapt to that platform. If it's email you prefer over WhatsApp, then you cannot accept things during WhatsApp. You can have a time period when there's overlap. But the second thing, that's the easiest answer to solve one little part of your problem. There's another part as well in terms of the time aspect of it. But the second thing that I would say is you need to segue into a learning platform like Google Classroom. It doesn't have to be Google Classroom itself, because that is going to help you tremendously. But let's get to the slides, and hopefully that will help. Hopefully that will help you understand in a bigger picture framework. Eureka, are you able to take down the poll from the screen?
We can't
Andrew,
see.
close it. Only you can see it now, because I've already closed it and I stopped sharing results.
Can I ask a question before?
Yes, sure. Just a minute. Here.
I just want to ask you, for me, it's not a problem. Just say you are quite right while saying that we must adapt, that pupils must adapt, not us. But the problem with the classroom, for example, Google Classroom, for me, it's not a problem. I know how to work with it. The problem is that the kids don't have devices and they don't have Gmails, because Google Classroom can work only in Gmail. So that is the problem. There is nothing to do.
So this is kind of making a deep dive into, I think, a very, very important part that's causing the most amount of problems for teachers. I would say two things. When I request something of a student, I try to keep in perspective whether I'm asking them to do something easy or whether I'm asking them to do something hard. So if a student, depending on the age, let's say starting at, say, 7th grade plus, if asking a student to open up a Gmail account is not hard. They may not want to do it, but that's not hard for them to do it. It literally takes just a minute to do that. And second, that moving towards a platform like Google Classroom does absolutely take some time on the front end. But like anything, if you spend a little time on the front end, it's going to save an enormous amount of time on the back end. So it's actually worth spending 1 or even 2 full class periods to try to move all of your students onto whatever platform is going to best work for you, because from that point on, everything is going to become easier, even though it comes at a cost of a class or 2 in order to do it. Okay, so let's move on to do that, but I really respect what you're saying, because I think it's a huge and crucial issue for teachers to try to figure that out. I just want to encourage you, to sum up, to get into, to develop a workflow that is going to make sense for you, and that's something I can share with you, how I've created my workflow that I think works for me pretty well and might work for other people. Okay, so what are we going to cover? We're really going to cover 4 things tonight. We're going to cover in distance education, particularly under this umbrella, what is involved with clear communication with students and parents, focused and organized lessons, material and pedagogy, and feedback. Hopefully, in those 4 subject areas, we're going to spend about 5 to 7 minutes on each, and hopefully be able to take some questions and things like that. Hopefully, everybody here this evening can look at one of these 4 areas and see something that they're going to be able to get out of it. Each one of these just involves 1 slide, that's all, because we wanted to encourage questions and comments. The only one that involves 2 slides is the last one, the feedback element, number 4. So let's move directly on to the clear communication with students and parents. So because this is the first 2 questions and comments really had to do with, is connected to this. So the first thing is that students and parents need 1 place to get information. And when I say place, what I mean by that is not 1 person. You are the person. But what you need to do is you need to create a place where the students can go and parents can go to get information without it involving you. Because teachers complain all the time. They're like, well, I teach this 1-hour Zoom class, but then for the next 7 hours, there are students trying to call me, WhatsApp me, email me, and things like that. So one of the things that if you want to solve this problem, you need to develop a place where the information that students need to know is in 1 location, whether it's a website, whether it is Google Classroom, whether it's a learning platform. Irit, did you want to jump in and say something? It looked like you were smiling, or do you want me to keep going? Okay. So and that platform, because students need more. They're going to learn beyond the 1 hour or 45 minutes of a Zoom class once or twice a week. That place where students need to get the information so that you're not answering emails and WhatsApps and things like that all day, that needs to be available to students in a static way. The asynchronous learning, that word asynchronous, what that really means is it's happening not just in one time, but across a time period. So if students are zoned out during your Zoom class for 45 minutes and they didn't quite get information that you had very carefully given to them, and 2 hours later they're like, oh, wait a minute, I've got this assignment that I need to get to my teacher, but I forgot. Now, they need a place to go to get that information without it bothering you. You've already given it in Zoom. It's not your responsibility to give it another time, but it is your responsibility as a good distance learning teacher to have that information available. And then I'll open up for questions in just a second, but the communication needs to be 2-way. So what do I mean by that? It needs to be teacher to student, like here's the information you need to know. But it also needs to be student and parent to the teacher, and not I'm sending you a WhatsApp and I want a response 5 minutes later. I hate when students send a question on WhatsApp. I don't actually take questions on WhatsApp, and then 5 minutes later, they put a question mark, like I'm supposed to have answered them within those 5 minutes. That's not fair to you, and it's really unreasonable to ask that type of thing of a teacher. And it should be dedicated just for teaching, and it shouldn't be connected to your personal cell phone. Why should you be getting WhatsApps all day, 80 WhatsApps, within a few hours after a Zoom class? That shouldn't be. And the nice thing is there are systems already in place. They take a tiny bit of time to set up, but the payoff is huge. So let me open it up after this first slide of communication, if anybody has any questions or comments.
I want to say that from experience, if you change to some kind of a platform that is not WhatsApp or SMS, the students suddenly have less questions because they don't contact you every minute if they have to go into Google Classroom, which is very easy. It's on their cell phone or Endomo or any other kind of platform. Suddenly they find the answers themselves, or they find that they can wait. But WhatsApp is so easy for them to just write again and again and again. So for the piece, it gives much more peace of mind and silence that you have a platform just is only for learning.
Just so you know, also, for those people who say, oh, but all year my students have been contacting me on WhatsApp, it's too late for me to make that transition. It's not. It really isn't too late. And in fact, students that send you WhatsApp, I actually just have a standard reply. I say, you need to send that message through Google Classroom. Now, some people would say, well, if you send that message, why not just send them, why just not answer the question? And the answer is because if you answer the question, then the next time they'll also send that message through WhatsApp. And so at some point you just have to say, I'm not answering any of those questions through WhatsApp. And that can include parent information as well. It just depends on how bold a line you want to draw. Any other questions before we move on to the next subject? Great. Okay, so we've covered communication, and the next subject. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you?
I just wanted to show a few examples of platforms that are maybe easier, and just to show us a few examples. Do you want me to do it now or after, Andrew?
I think probably after. Let's move to at least the next.
After the next one. Okay.
Great. Okay.
Sorry, I have a quick question actually.
Great.
Just you said, okay, not to send through WhatsApp. There's other platforms, but like what other platforms?
Good question. Okay. So the dominant platform for education for teachers, not just in Israel, but throughout the world right now, is Google Classroom. I am a huge believer in Google Classroom and because I find it easy for students and for me and for teachers.
I actually, sorry to interrupt you, I use Google Classroom, but I didn't know that there's a communication, a mode of communication in Google Classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah, students can send messages to you, and you can send messages to them. And if we have time at the end of this, I'm happy to show you, but also next week, I'm going to do a deep dive into my own workflow with teaching and showing platforms. So hopefully if I don't answer your question this week, I will absolutely spend quite a bit of time on it next week.
And yes, I will also show a few examples, but I want to say that the best way is to first of all check if your school already has some kind of a platform. Some of the schools in Jerusalem are connected with the Microsoft platform, which is a little bit different, but it gives everything that Google also gives. And some of the schools have Google. Some of them don't have, but some of the teachers may be using another platform or application, which is very convenient for them. So first of all, I would ask the Rakaz Tikshuv in the school if we already have something like that at school and someone who can help me and teach me. Also, if not, you can do it by yourselves. You can get help. We can help you. Both Andrew and me have a lot of experience, and there are also many people in Jerusalem and schools that have been doing it for a while, and there are many videos online, so you can learn it and start using it. Okay, there are a lot of webinars only on this, and but it's really good if people in the school are already using it and you're doing it together. So maybe the students already have emails, maybe they don't know, but it exists and it would be easier to do it.
Great. Again, I plan to spend, if I don't get to it this week, I plan to spend quite a bit of time next week on it. So hopefully you'll come back. Great. So
Can I ask a question?
please.
I'm sorry, I wanted to ask it before we got into this. Because I don't know, I'm going to have to get into Google Classroom. I don't know anything about it, but you know, you spoke about it. I just want to know something, since it seems like all the communication that you have is going through there, which is sort of a nice idea, because you're not getting WhatsApps every 5 minutes, which is what's happening to me. They're either sending work or they're in the middle. But I wanted to ask you, how do you go on it one time a day at the end of the day? I just want to know how you manage it. That's
right.
all.
So that's a more complicated question about how I manage it. But what I will say is, once you're on Google Classroom, you can decide how you manage it. You can decide, I'm going to go on it once a day, or I'm going to go on it 5 times a day, or however you want to do it. But it's not dinging you all the time like WhatsApp. And it's not just the information. It's that you can really think of Google Classroom like a physical classroom. It's your space, and you as the teacher can control it. Now, I plan to go on to this next slide, but I can take a moment, if you think it's valuable, for me to just show you, spend 1 or 2 minutes just showing you what Google Classroom looks like. Would you prefer, because we're spending a little time and this seems
I would, but it's up to everybody else. I would like it, but I don't know how everybody else feels. I would like to know about the communication part.
I won't get too far off track, but because there seem to be quite a few questions, Irit, do you feel like that's something valuable right now, or you'd rather have me move on? You're on mute, so you would need to.
Oh, okay. I think that it's good that today, maybe at the end of the session, you will show exactly, I mean, you will really give examples. Let's go through the topics, and then you will really show your Google Classroom from the inside. I just want to answer Eliane, I think, or Meshulam, that she says we were told you're not supposed to register students with their personal email addresses to Google Classroom. So very quickly, first, I don't want to speak only on Google Classroom, but any platform that you choose. Many years ago, I started this with my students, and we didn't have this kind of platform at school. So I created emails for them through the Google for Education website, and I gave them their emails. I notified the parents, then the parents agreed, and I gave them the emails. The emails were brand new. It wasn't an email that they had before, and we started using through this. Today it's much easier to do it, but it's better that it will be their own email and not their parents. If they are younger than 13, then you really have to contact the parents and let them know and ask for approval. And there's also a very short process of getting Google for Education for your school right now. We can send a link later. Usually it takes time, but now they're doing it very fast because of the corona.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for both the question and great explanation from Irit. Okay, so the second category is, and several people wanted to know, material and pedagogy. Exactly, the first instinct of teachers when they switch from a physical classroom to online instruction is, how can I do the same thing that works for me as a really good teacher in the classroom online? And the short answer is you probably can't, which doesn't mean that you can't be a great online teacher. But what you teach and how you teach it are probably going to have to change in at least small ways and maybe in big ways. So let's talk about those things. First of all, we're talking about specifically an EFL classroom. So what are some things that work particularly well, and then how exactly do you do it? So for one thing, vocabulary instruction can work well. How? You can create Google Slides or any PowerPoint or whatever program you want with words on each one, and with some explanations and some activities. Again, that involves some technology. It involves using a slide program. I tend to create, I'm using Google Slides in tonight's presentation. I tend to create a slideshow for every one of my classes with small bullet points just so I can remember, but more importantly, so I can post the presentation, maybe 4 slides, 5 slides for students. So I can post it, I post it in Google Classroom so that when the students who are falling asleep and they have their cameras off and I don't know what they're doing and whatever, they come back 2 hours later and realize, oh my goodness, I have an assignment and I wasn't paying attention in class. They can just go to their Google Classroom, pull up the slideshow that we did during class, and they can look at it on their own. And that's really one of the benefits of distance education and asynchronous. But it only works if during the presentation you're doing more than talking, you're showing and you're doing. So that's important. Also, there's some excellent, for vocabulary instruction, there's also some just excellent programs. Lots of people use Quizlet. I'm not a big fan of Quizlet. I think it's fine. I really love Anki flashcards, which are really amazing and powerful. So those are just 2 ways that you can be teaching vocabulary through distance education. Writing instruction is quite easy because just on Zoom, you can share screen, you can pull up a Word document or a Google Doc, and you can type and you can use the whiteboard, and the students you can ask, where's the topic sentence or what word needs to be changed, and there can be something participatory about that. So during Zoom, you should be sharing your screen, you should be bringing up documents and having students talk and think about it. And also, quite frankly, there's some amazing ways to have speaking and discussion. In fact, I would argue that it's far easier to encourage speaking and discussion in an online distance education environment than there is in class. When it gets noisy and kids are yelling and they're distracted and things like that, there is, if you don't know, there's just an amazing program called Flipgrid in which you can just simply speak into the Flipgrid for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds to promote a discussion, and then the students do the same, and you've got all these students speaking and they can look at each other's. It's really great. So anyway, in terms of material and pedagogy, vocabulary instruction, writing instruction, speaking, discussion, these are all things that are possible and can work really well in an online environment.
This is the time to show Flipgrid, Andrew.
Great. Okay. So,
can I ask a question, Andrew? Sorry,
yeah.
I need for you to back up a little. You said, you mentioned something to teach vocabulary with, which is amazing, and I didn't quite get the...
Great. So it's actually on the slide, but it's called Anki, A-N-K-I. The students need, one of the big hurdles for teachers, I need to be completely honest, is every time you do a program, whether it's Anki, whether it's Flipgrid, whether it's anything, almost all of them involve some sort of small hurdle to get over. The students have to register at the site. You have to register at the site. These are things that are intimidating, and they can be intimidating for the teacher. They can be intimidating for students. So I'm very well aware of that. But Anki is a great way, and the students can download the program. It's right on their phone, and they can be doing flashcards all the time just on their phone. So I wanted
Thank
to just...
you.
Sure. I wanted to just show you Flipgrid for a moment. And I just need to find which tab it is. Great. Okay. So I hope everybody can see this.
No, we don't. We see the presentation. So maybe stop sharing and reshare.
Reshare. Great. Okay. Thank you for telling me that. Okay. Okay. So now can you see it?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So, so the program is called Flipgrid. And as you can see on this screen, I have 2 classes going on right now on my Flipgrid. I have a 7th grade English class right here, and I have a 9th grade English class. And in my 7th grade English class, I'll just click on this, through this, and I have one activity. So I'm on, this year I've taught 108 new vocabulary words. I do them 12 at a time. I'm on vocabulary words 97 through 108. I've taught them, I've done a slideshow, I've done all the stuff with them. And what they need to do is they needed to write some sort of short story. And when I say short, it's like a paragraph, using all 12 of those words. So I'm not going to show you, because of students' privacy, I'm not going to show you the actual videos, but all the students do is they enter Flipgrid and they just speak into Flipgrid. It automatically photos, and it's all organized nicely. Instead of students having to send a video on WhatsApp or whatever, the students can enter Flipgrid. I enter Flipgrid and I can see all of this and then make my comments. And one of the really great things is almost all of these programs also integrate with Google Classroom, so that when a student enters a video here in Flipgrid, it also shows up in my Google Classroom, so that I can actually enter my Google Classroom and I can see, oh, 3 students have done videos. I need to go to Flipgrid and just do that. So hopefully does anybody have any questions about Flipgrid before I stop sharing and go back to the presentation?
How to create the
yeah,
grid?
one little question. Can I ask a little question? Do they also see each other's assignments here, or only you see them?
That's a great question. That's completely up to you as a teacher. So I originally, and it's a good question because this happened to me, I had originally set this up in my 7th grade class that everybody could see it. But 7th graders can be, shy about their own speaking. So the first student who did it, a whole bunch of students went and looked at it because they wanted to learn how to do it. And that student asked me, you know what, I want it to be private. So I just changed the setting. So for my 7th grade class, they are all completely private. Nobody can see anybody else's Flipgrid. But my 9th grade class, the students all agreed. They're like, yeah, that's fine. Anybody can see it. So you have to get a feel for how you wanna do that. Great question, though.
Can you come back?
There's just a quick little switch. It's like, is it all public, or is it, and public means just within your class, or is it all private? So now I'm starting always with it being all private until a class decides that it can be public.
So how do you create the grid? I opened the account and I chose I don't know what, and I don't know how to make an instruction, how to write an instruction.
Okay, so I'm not going to talk about that specifically today, but please come back next week because we will spend a little time talking about that. Also, Irit and I can just stay after this, and I can walk you through that a little bit.
Does Flipgrid work only with smartphones or with Android too? How can they get the QR code?
Yeah, it works with any smartphone and computer and tablets as well.
And computer too. Okay.
Yeah, it's multi-platform.
So no Androids, only smartphones. Okay.
Well, an Android
Android is a smartphone. Yes.
Yeah.
They are different. Yes.
So I'm going to stop sharing my Flipgrid. And any more questions about general material and approaches before we go on to the 3rd subject area?
I don't know if we'll really finish it today, but it's important to speak. So if you have any questions that are not technical, because technical questions, we will send you videos and you can go to YouTube. There's so much material there on how to do everything. And but in terms of how to plan it, how to work with the students, these were really good questions. Yeah. Andrew, can I show a few examples?
Oh, please. Go right ahead.
Okay, so I want to show it really quickly. These are not new things, but just ideas. I think that first of all, I wanted to say that 2 things guide me actually in teaching, but in online learning as well, that you don't have to do all the work yourselves. Okay, you don't have to prepare as much. We have to find the ways to let the students do meaningful things and learn. And so, but we cannot prepare everything for them. So I like them to do things by themselves, create presentations, learn from videos and summarize them, or go into websites that they can learn and check themselves. I'll show you a few examples really quickly. We don't have time, but you will get the presentation by email, so you will be able to enter all the links. That's one thing. And another thing is really get the students to do things by themselves. Okay, so for example, this is a store. One moment here. This is a Google Slides, okay, which is we can share it. I can share it through Google Classroom. I can just make a Google slide. This one I did by myself, and the students entered the presentation and just answered. And because it is shared with me, that I can see their answers. So I can. It's old. It's not like the current program, but there are all kinds of activities here with links, and they can go to the links and answer themselves. So for example, they have Quizlets, and after the Quizlets, okay, they have all kinds of things that they have to do, find words, write. Now they're writing inside this presentation. So in the end, after a few weeks or after a week or 2 or 3 that we work on this and I guide them, then I have their full work, so I can check it whenever I want. Here there's a link to a quiz on Google Form. When they're ready, they take the quiz, and then I get their grade, but I don't have to grade it myself, which is much easier. Okay, so this is one example. I want to show you that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Is this a shared presentation?
Yes.
So all the students see everybody else's
No.
work?
It's shared only between me and the student. Okay,
so if you have like 30 students, you get 30
yes, exactly. Okay. For example, can you see now the Google Docs with the letter? Okay, so there's a letter to Ogden Nash. It's a 4-point student who wrote it. She writes, and you can see that I commented and she corrected, and she does it here. I do it whenever it's convenient or whenever I have the time, but it's also a shared document. Now, another example here, you can go, if you're interested, you can go to YouTube and see how to create a Google site. Google site is something so easy as a Word document, but it's a real website. And I just wanted to show you that when I taught here present perfect, they had, I just put here exactly like you build a Word document, materials from the web. And here, for example, there's a video from YouTube about the present perfect tense, and I asked them to copy the rules of the present perfect to their notebooks. Okay, something not very, interactive and interesting, but the video is really nice. It exists. I don't have to teach it only myself. Of course, that I review it, or maybe at the beginning I teach them and then they do this work. Translate them. Okay, this is for a younger kid. Watch the story, the present perfect tense. Everything is on YouTube. And now they have to summarize the story, copy sentences that use the present perfect. So it's a little bit like a textbook, but it's more interactive. And what I wanted to show you is that the materials, there are a lot of materials online, so you don't have to make everything up by yourselves. Okay, and yes.
The site that you just showed is something that you made? It's on Google
Yes,
site?
I made it, and as I said, to create a Google site is really, really easy, and
is it
everyone.
Google Classrooms?
It works with Google Classrooms, but you can also create it from your own Google account, and also you can implement there a lot of things. For example, activities from the British Council website, which is also a very good website, and it also. What I do is I tell them to check themselves, because there's an online like tests or a quiz there, and then just to copy, to shoot the screen with their phone camera or print screen on the computer and send to me their answer. So I know they did it. I know they tested themselves, but I don't have to grade it myself. And I really advise to find things like that that will make your life easier. Okay, so if you will get, of course, the presentation with everything. Andrew, what do you suggest? We have 10 more minutes.
I have, look, oh, go, yeah, please.
Yes.
Okay, what I wanted to, I just was wondering how you do this. For example, you know that the kids, you have a lesson with somebody on Tuesday. Everything, you just send them to the site, you just tell them, okay, you give them the link. I have no idea how it works. You just say, and you've already prepared it, it's already on there. Like, how are they working with it?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Maybe,
Could you
maybe we should leave,
hear me?
maybe we should leave the practical
I think
part.
the internet's not good.
Oh, I just say it's you're right. We won't get into technicalities, but I will just tell you that from the beginning, if I have a website or a link and I have a way to send them, it's better if you have an online platform. But if you do it via WhatsApp or email or something else, then you send them the link and they get used to going to the same place every time. Okay, it's creating a culture. Okay, you tell them from now on, this is what we do. You go into the same link. I'll tell you to go to page, this page or that page. Okay, and they get used to it. I just have to be to choose one thing and use it constantly. And then if I want to add more things, then.
All right, Irit, we've got about, we're committed, everyone, we're committed to finishing completely at 9:30, just so you know. And I do feel like maybe instead of rushing through the last two subjects, maybe I could give people just a quick, like 5-minute overview of Google Classroom, and so that they could maybe be encouraged about what it can do and how it might be able to help them. Does that sound reasonable, or would you prefer that I went through the third and fourth slides more quickly?
Let's see. How many of you are, maybe if we can see you just...
Yeah, I would like to see the Google Classrooms, please.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, so great. I'm totally happy to do it. So let me just say...
I want the Google Classroom. I want the Google Classroom.
Okay. Google Classroom 1.
I'm going to do that. So let me just preface my remarks by saying that I'm not going to get into the technical things about how to set it up. Setting it up is actually quite easy, technical, but I want to just show you a few things that it can do. So that way you'll leave the session saying, you know what, I really do need to move over to this, even though I'm not used to it and my students aren't used to it, because the payoff is going to be so great. Hopefully you will come to that conclusion. It doesn't necessarily need to be Google Classroom. It could be any learning platform. But okay, so everybody can see this screen, correct? Okay, good. So this is what my Google Classroom is set up to look like. Okay, and what I mean by that is, this is an overview of the 5 classes that I teach. As you can see, I teach 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. Okay, and I have a specific classroom for each one. Now, what a student sees when they open up their Google Classroom is they will only see the classrooms that they have joined. So my 7th graders obviously would only see this 7th grade icon. And what they would do is they would just click into the 7th grade, okay? And this is the screen. It looks a little bit different for a teacher than it does for a student, but it's basically the same. So many of you have asked, I don't understand, how can I just send a message to all of my students, easily? Well, so there, you can see these 4 areas up at the top. A stream, which is the screen we're on now. Classwork, which is where you assign classwork. The people, which is you just managing all of the students in your class. And then grades. how the students check their grades, and how you, and all the information about the grades that they receive. So this is what I meant in that first slide about one central place where the students don't have to contact you. They are instead going to their classroom where you are making all of this information available. So if I just want to say something to my students, okay, say something. So you all saw the Flipgrid earlier, okay, in which I think I had 9 students maybe had done Flipgrid. So I'm going to send a message actually live right now. This isn't a fake. I'm just going to write a message and saying, this is a reminder to do your Flipgrid videos. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. And here I'm going to post it right here. Okay, let me just edit that. Flipgrid, I think, is just it's one word. This is a reminder to do your Flipgrid videos. I'd like to have a piece of punctuation at the end. Now I'm going to post it. Okay, and I have just sent a message to all the students. Now you might be saying, how would they get this message? In order to join Google Classroom, the students have to have a Gmail account. Okay, so now what's happened is it's not only posted on the stream right here, so that if a student enters Google Classroom, they can see that message, but also it has sent an email message, a Gmail message, to all of the students automatically that says, this message is from Andrew, this is a reminder to do your Flipgrid videos. So that is how I send messages to students. And now if a student wants to send a reply back to me saying, but Andrew, I did my Flipgrid video, they can send it publicly so that all of the students can see it, or they can send it privately so that only I can see it. Okay? You don't need to know the technical part. It's extremely easy about how to do that. But I would then receive a message on my email that says, Tamar has sent the class a message. So I could decide to only check my messages once a day, or I could check my messages all the time. That's up to you as an individual teacher about how you want to do that. Let me just very quickly, before there are any questions, say a few things. I also posted an assignment from my last class. What does an assignment look like? So the instructions for the assignment are here. You can see that I've attached the questions, I've attached the reading, I've given directions, and the students, I assigned it to 41 students. I have a huge class. 10 of them have sent it to me. They still have a few more days to do that. I will then send them a reminder tomorrow, don't forget to do your Winn-Dixie Chapter 6 questions. Okay, I can get into how I graded and do all that stuff, but this is the one place where all the students go and I go to, and I don't have to worry about getting WhatsApps, emails. I don't have to worry about organizing it. I don't have to do all of that. One more thing, let's just go back to the 7th grade class here. I said I also send my Zoom meeting information. That's all right here. And I give them lots of information. I happen to be a teacher that sends a lot of emails and things like that. I tell them how to get onto Padlet. I tell them all sorts of stuff. So anyway, we're now right up to 9:28. There's 2 minutes before the end of class. Let me stop sharing this, and maybe 1 or 2 people have questions that I can get to about Google Classroom or stuff like that. Did you at least get a feel for what it can do?
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Great. I mean, that was super quick. Next session, next Thursday, I'll plan to spend much more time. But what I would strongly encourage, anybody can go to YouTube, and there are wonderful, much better explanations than I just did that are 6 minutes, 8 minutes long. And I can encourage you specifically, there's one site, one YouTube channel, which is outstanding, called the New Ed Tech Classroom. We can put that in the chat. New Ed Tech Classroom. The videos are amazing. So, okay, questions?
The school has to purchase the Google Classroom?
Most schools have access to the whole G Suite that includes Google Classroom.
No, maybe I can answer because school. First of all, Google for Education, the G Suite, it's called, is free of charge for schools. It is given free of charge once you prove you're a school. So there's a certain procedure which is not very difficult, and today is even much easier to do. In Jerusalem, we have at least 20 schools that use it entirely with all of their students, but in many schools, individual teachers are using them, not everyone. So some of the schools have, like, for example, Andrews School, they have a license and they have everything, but not all teachers use it. And in the school I came from Ziv, then there all the teachers were using Google Classroom. So that's why I said that it's important to check with the Rakaz Tikshuv, and but it's free of charge. So there's absolutely
how do we do it?
Okay, so there's a website for it, and now I understand that there is also an email that helps schools in Israel do it really easily. So I will put it on the chat right now, this email that you can contact Google Israel, and also you can contact the city, the Jerusalem municipality, Minhelet Tikshuv. Okay, you can do it through me or through us, and ask for help, and they find people that can help you go through this. Okay, it's not very difficult.
Okay.
There's also a WhatsApp group for teachers and teachers who work with Google as administrators. So if you want to join, just tell me, and I will let you in.
Okay, thank you.
Any more? I want to encourage, it's 9:30. Anybody that feel free to leave. You could, of course, left at any time. But I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes to answer any questions. But
sorry, just
great.
Quickly.
One more very quick thing.
Not really a question about anything specific from the slide. It's just I got this. My principal sent me the link to this Zoom. How can I connect to you guys so that I get the link next week?
So
the same question.
Irit can answer that a little better, but I don't know if you're on the Facebook. If you're on Facebook and you go to the English Teacher Network, it's always posted there, but perhaps also
I'm sorry.
English Teacher Network, that's the name of the group?
No, it's called Nihul G Suite, and because the WhatsApp group, and
no.
Facebook, I mean.
No, she had asked, how do we get the link to this Zoom meeting for next week?
Okay.
The same with me.
So first of all, you can leave your email in the chat, like many have done here, and I will send you. I will send everything: the link, the recording of today, and the previous time, and the links that we talked about. And also, our Facebook page is called Beit HaMechanchim. I'm writing it here in the chat. Yes, Beit HaMechanchim. And we have a Facebook page, and we also have a website. And also now in the days of the Corona, there's a website for Jerusalem municipality that supports teachers, parents, and students. It's called Beit Sefer Be'anan, cloudschool.co.il, something like that. So you can also enter there, and all the studios and the previous studios are there. Next week, for example, we don't only have English, we also have about emotional teaching with someone with Pazit Geller, who is extremely interesting, and several other things. You can look there.
Okay.
Any more questions? Thank you all so much for staying. I know your time is, important and valuable. So thank you very much. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope to see you.
Thank you very much.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please send the material.
Yes, we will send the materials, of course.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you again.